Welcome to Conversations with the Authors.
Welcome back to Conversations with the Authors, Season 2, or as I like to think of it, Chapter 2 of this wonderful story we call Conversations with the Authors. I'm here with my mom, my dad, the highly rated, Eric Hoffer nominated authors of the fantasy novel How Nicholas Became Santa Claus. For this episode, we're going to talk about some of our favorite things from past seasons before we get into the new season. I know I say past seasons, but it was pluralized for no apparent reason. It was only one season, but there will be more. There will be more. If you hear papers ruffling around, usually we don't script this, and it's not scripted, but I am looking at a list of things, of the episodes and their descriptions, just as a frame of reference. So, here we go. Mom, Dad, how are you? Thank you again for congratulations on the renewal of Season 2.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the success with the book that's happening from the American Library Association, which was one of my favorite bits from last season. We actually did a live stream from McCormick Place, 50,000 people. How was that experience?
It was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Quite nice.
I hear that there are a lot of movie companies there. I hear Paramount and Netflix. I'm hearing the words, I'm hearing WB. I'm hearing there's a few queries heading out for your book because you have a movie, screenplay.
Screenplay, yes.
It's already registered. It's out in Hollywood. So take a look at it.
So, I guess one of my most favorite episodes would have to be the first episode, which was our inaugural episode, because that's what first is.
Right.
But anyway, we introduced the audience to who you are, and for our new listeners, dear listeners and readers, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Alexander Nakarada. If you heard the intro, then he composed it. So why don't you reintroduce yourselves to them? How did you get into writing? Who are you? How long have you been writing?
Well, just to reintroduce myself, I'm Daryl Troop, and I'm here at this event today. And it must be a pleasure for you to have me here.
Always a pleasure.
And then this is Sandra.
And, of course, my name is Daniel Troop, chef, screenwriter. It's a pleasure to meet me. Ma, you got into writing. You both started, as we spoke about this, as a matter of fact, around the season finale, we talked about it. If you go back to it's going to be episode 26, and we talked about the courage to encourage, and we talked about how you got into writing. You were both young when you started writing.
Yeah, we were both kids. I mean, little kids. Grade school. Where...
Well, I've been writing all my life, and I've always wanted to be a writer. As everybody who's listened to this podcast knows, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Rod Serling. And I wanted to write the Twilight Zone episodes. So I was always interested in science fiction, fantasy, and mystery, and all of that. So
we talk about a lot of things on this podcast. We don't just talk about How Nicholas Became Santa Claus, but though everything we talk about is somehow related to it. We talk about movies, we talk about games, we talk about sci-fi, fantasy.
Some topical things.
Some topical things, some non-topical things, because I tend to do that. Because it's not scripted and my mind just goes. Sometimes there's impressions, you'll hear.
You're not as old as I am.
Maybe you'll hear Jeff Goldblum, But, it really depends on what we're talking about. So I guess let's talk about the prologue. We talked about this in episode 3, and this was a reading we did of an excerpt from your book. And it's quite fascinating. We meet some of our principal characters. So when you wrote the prologue to Nicholas, what was going through your mind? What was...
Well, the story is epic, and by that I mean it takes this individual when he was born all the way up to a certain age, to age 18. And so it goes through it expands the years. But, you know, and people ask, where do I start when I write a story? I say start anywhere that sounds appropriate. So what I mean by to say is that the prologue was something it got the story going. It gave you enough information so that you would know some of the very important aspects of the story and why things were the way they were, and how they got to be that way. So you had to have that foreknowledge, and we thought it necessary to write that. And it's right. And instead of building up like you're going uphill slowly into something, we started already in the middle of the hill, you know, and we took you for a ride so that you know, get some feeling about where this is going.
And two of the driving questions that came from you guys when you were little was, why do we need Santa Claus, and how did he get his magic? So I tried to address both of those in the prologue. And how can you not need Santa Claus if you have...
Well, you know, we wanted to set up the good guys, the bad guys, the villainy, and everything else that had to mix into the story to make the story. So the prologue was important. It was an important setup. You know, and if you didn't know that, then there would be a big chunk missing why things are the way they were.
Because, dear listeners, dear readers, if you're new to the broadcast, you need to understand that this is not your grandpa's. It's not your grandpa's, Santa Claus story. This is not the claymation Santa Claus. This is not.
I would even dare say it's not Santa Claus. No, it's how he became that. It's about the man.
It's about the man, the myth, the legend. It's about Nicholas. It's about who he is.
It's about Nicholas finding out who he is, what he is, why he is, and having to make the decision, am I going to help? Or am I going to sit back and watch whatever happens?
All of the magical creatures in this magical world that you develop. I mean, like, this is not a biopic. This is not a biographical story. This is like Lord of the Rings. This is like Harry Potter. This is like Game of Thrones. This is a wonderful ensemble style of story.
And we're so excited to have you read it.
Yes, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy, and I'm seeing the momentum, every day. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm reading the website. I'm listening to the people hit me up on social media. So, what was one of your favorite episodes of last season?
Number 3 was one of my biggest favorites. That's when you started reading the book. And
reading excerpt.
Yes.
People had finally been exposed to the descriptions.
Yes. And I've been told by so many people, especially at the American Library Association, we talked to some of our fans there who picked up the book, who got signings, and the description, they say it's like watching a movie. It really is. The description is key. And I think that's what makes your writing unique. I mean, in the promo, we refer to you as the masters of sci-fi and fantasy. And I think that's true especially because the detail is in there. And we had a podcast, particularly, where we talked about the details and last season. And I think that's what's important, but to not go overboard with it, too, right?
Yes.
Right. It's a seasoning. It's just the right pinch of salt in a recipe. Accents?
Yes.
I remember a comment way back, when Obama was president, and right.
Let me hear it.
Yeah, and he said something, I think, that I'm going to change this country fundamentally, something to that effect. And I think I had one of my characters say something similar, in that same order, and that was inspiring because my one character, I'm not going to tell you if it was a good guy or a bad guy, wanted to change their magical society fundamentally from the ground.
Yes.
And so that was an inspiring statement, for better or for worse.
And Dad, what was your a couple of your favorite episodes from last season that we talked about? Can you think of anything in particular that really comes to mind? Or?
Yeah, it's just hearing and feeling the excitement of a reader who says what they like about the story. And so for me, it was episode 11 with the superfan,
yes.
superfans with the authors.
Absolutely.
When we had Chico Marin on. If you're out there, Chico, we just mentioned your name, okay? Okay. It was nice to hear that type of enthusiasm. She was so thrilled to get a copy of the book and to read the book, and she was so thankful that I let her know about it, and she enjoyed that quite a bit. And she asked some questions and she made some comments regarding the book and the authors. I was just so excited about that. I would do that with anybody who read the book. I want to hear them. And so if there's anyone out there who's read and who'd like to come on and talk, go to our website and let us know, and we'll have a conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't be afraid. It's this is not going out live.
No.
So we get a chance to stop if you have a cough or if you make a flub.
Or you just say something.
Yeah, we can edit it. Okay.
It can be cut out. Because Conversations with the Authors is a conversation between us and you. We want you to feel as though you're part of this conversation. And I really felt that, like you, I felt that the Conversations with the Superfans, 24 and 25 with Ernie Page, was a great, because the episode was very informative in terms of the sort of hearing from the publishing side, and two, just hearing from the reading side in episode 25. And I really enjoy Ernie, and I hope that he'll come back, because I think there's still a lot we can learn from him. What about you, Ma?
I like that. I enjoyed having his input and his insight into the business.
Well, here's a particular set of skills.
Right.
That's right. It's his particular set of skills, and it's skills that authors do not have. It's something that a lot of authors, including myself, believe that if you write a story, it's really easy to go out and get it into the bookstores and into libraries. It is not. It is not.
Right. And I think Ernie did a great job of sort of, cutting back the weeds and sort of pointing out what's important and what isn't. Did you have any other favorite episodes? I don't want to make it all about me, but you can make it all about me if you want to. I don't. But I'm very curious to know if there is anything that might have piqued your interest.
I also liked the episode 8.
Oh yeah, Smooth Walls.
Smooth Walls.
Can I just say that's like one of my favorite titles? Because we're referring to sci-fi and how we talk about detail and what's important, and you talk about sort of this, creating this fantastic worldscape, and then you've got these spaceships that are just everything is all sort of.
Well, the most fun thing about science fiction is it's fiction.
Well,
and you can play. It's playing. You get to imagine what you want to imagine and then make it happen.
I think in terms of the smooth walls, we're talking about the old science fiction programs like Star Trek, with this dearth of details. When it came to the walls, you had a wall there, a couple flashing lights, but the rest was your imagination.
There's no
cardboard box set.
No budget.
The cardboard box sets.
Yes.
That's not logical, Captain.
There's no budget, so I think, and that was a good episode for talking about sort of the difference between, sci-fi, fantasy, and, science fiction itself in sort of its raw form and fantasy. So I've got to wonder what's as we've talked about this a few times, but a little future speak. What's next for the book? What's next for the podcast? What do you think? What do you think we should do? Where do you think we should go?
And fans, that's a question to you too, and you can leave messages, something you'd like to talk about in here. But we've got ideas too, and I think there's something I probably want to talk about on the next one. I was thinking maybe finding your voice.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you hear that a lot.
Like this one. It's me, Mario. No, maybe. Nintendo, give me a call. I know you're hiring.
You're hired.
But you're talking more of
metaphorically
your style of writing.
Right.
You know, and we'll get into that. You know, unless we do it now.
It's like Daddy versus me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a free associator. Daddy's more linguist.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get into that.
More
I think I want
more
to talk
in line
Yeah.
and
We won't give too much of that away.
But I think we're also going to touch upon. I think we're gonna go back into the man versus machine kind of idea. We talked about AI a lot for a couple episodes, and I'd like to see if I can wrangle some more guest speakers, just so we can. I mean, the writer's strike going on, and they're taking our jobs, and we want to
Actor strike.
we want to see really how is that affecting us, and how does that sort of affect the writing and movie communities, and why is that important? And I think it's important to express that. And on that note, maybe why we favor, say, writing things by hand versus writing things on the
I
computer.
still write all of my ideas out by hand first,
Yeah.
and then we go to.
Yeah.
You know, there's something really romantic about writing by hand, and a lot of people still do that. There was a time in this world when that was the only way to do it. But I can't imagine, 150 years from now, and somebody digs out the back of my closet and pulls out an old computer that has my original document on it, because it won't be there. But if it were paper and written in hand,
you can say that because we went to not sponsored, but if you guys want to sponsor, we went to the Museum of Science and Industry
here in Chicago.
recently in Chicago, and they had a Pompeii exhibit. And they had some carvings, etchings, I guess, that were in the wall, saying different, so that were translated sort of different phrases. Some that, it just sort of proves that people are, inevitably the same. But I think it would have been different if it were like a typed out document, that were shown to the world. So I
think if you write a sentence, I write a sentence, she writes a sentence, I don't mean by hand. You can see characteristically there are different things about it. It shows a bit of your personality and your flair. I remember when I was a kid, when I would sign my name, it would seem so simple. But when my father would sign his name, it was very flared and very all of these other things in it. So it showed his personality. Wasn't it John Hancock who says he wanted to make sure that King George could read this?
Yes.
He made it as large as he could, and he flared it as much as he could.
And what I want to make sure that you can read is, of course, How Nicholas Became Santa Claus. And if you want to see my dad's amazing signature, my mother's amazing signature, if you want to if you want to see their personalities coming through, please check out troopbooks.com. Check out our social media at facebook.com, at X, I guess it's now called instead of Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Troop Books is the name, and hopefully we can talk to you and talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. Hit us up on the info at Troop Books and let us know your thoughts and suggestions. Leave comments on the website. Hit us up on social media, and we'll talk to you next time on Conversations with the Authors, Season 2.